champions he wants to play. Normally, if you have a player where you want to give him a fairly easy game, you put him more disengaged focused, you know, not the big playmaker. The likes of Lulu has been one for nRated a lot. That could be a takeaway if Elements wants to play.
Yeah, or a ban away. I mean, that's I think.
Or ban away.
I think that actually makes a lot of sense because this is something that SK's prioritize. They prioritize support actually fairly highly up the chain. A lot of teams are doing that, but the Lulu is a specialty for SK Gaming, and it's just been denied them.
And I really like it because I really like the Lulu for SK because of the fact that it gives CandyPanda and nRated a fairly strong lane. Just if you look at the champion, Lulu is very strong in the first few levels. She has the fast pushing ability, and also she's very good with teams who like to play very all-in. Because again, the ulti you have, you stay in the back, you play very safe, which is what suits nRated quite a lot. So I like the ban from Elements. It's something we saw in Spring Split as well. When nRated was playing so much Lulu, teams started banning it away and said, you know, we want to see what you can do in other support than just the Lulu. Yeah,
this is actually quite interesting. Some target bans, definitely a lot of them. Right now with 2 bans at Froggen, the Azir and the Vlad. Thresh's ban, that's interesting. And of course the Vayne ban, neither Tabzz nor CandyPanda will get their hands on it. But of course, Kalista absolutely left through. It's immediately snapped up by Elements. And that of course means with no junglers taken off the board, Svenskeren will have his pick and he chooses Gragas. Also Ekko, immediately locked in.
Okay, a little bit surprised SK instantly jumps to the jungle here. We saw Ekko jungle for Sven. We know it can be a flex pick for multiple teams. With the Gragas also a flex pick coming in. We've seen a top lane from the likes of CandyPanda, but I'm a little bit surprised that things like Alistar then just instantly goes through here, because when there are the 2 tier 1 junglers, you don't necessarily have to take them in early rotations because you can always just trade them back and forth. We've seen Ryze from Huni. Jace is open as well if any of the teams wants to play it, and we just saw how strong it can be. So there's a lot of good picks open here. I think Elements can be very happy with this. They're getting Alistar, they're getting Kalista, one of the best 2v2 lanes, and you still get that Rek'Sai because it wasn't taken away by SK.
This is what happens when you have so many target bans, that immediately all these world of possibilities are open, and all these champions that we see vied for get picked up immediately. And right now, Elements, yeah, they've got strong... a very strong bot lane right now. They've got themselves a top-tier jungler. But SK Gaming, remember, you know, I mean, this Gragas is also very powerful. This Ekko, we don't know where it's going to go just yet.
Must assume it's going to be in a solo lane, and Gragas will be the jungle pick. That would make the most sense for SK here, even though Sven had such a good performance on Ekko in the last week against Unicorns of Love. Very messy game, you know, back and forth. In the end, SK managed to win, but it really is about him and Freddy. And then we see other members from SK step up from time to time and suddenly start carrying games. I mean, they got the 2 wins, super good for the confidence. They have set themselves, they are no longer looking at themselves as a top team. You know, they know that down here they want to fight to avoid relegation and to make playoffs, and then you can start looking further up the standings once you've made that playoff spot.
Well, they finally did snap the losing streak, but we mentioned, you know, it wasn't necessarily against opponents playing up to the top level. Let's see if they can do this against Elements. They now lock in the Shen, so we know where that Ekko will most likely be going. Unless they pull something really crazy here. As Elements look to round out their composition. Don't be fooled by the AD carry hovers. They've already got a Kalista.
Yeah, so SK again will get the Sivir because, as you mentioned, there were so many big picks open. Elements wanted to ban the Vayne away from CandyPanda. So clearly trying to target some comfort picks on the side of SK, trying to push them onto different champions and see if they can perform the same. We know Sivir is fairly simple. So
yeah, you group and you're able to just run at the enemy team. And it's also worth noting how much SK is really focused on Froggen's champion pool this game, because not only did they take those 2 bans away from him, the Ekko is also a takeaway. It's something that he had a pretty solid performance on. Now he goes over to the Kog'Maw. They have a Gnar for Jwaow as well. So how does this comp shake up, do you think?
Well, for Elements, it will give them some fantastic scaling from the mid lane of Froggen.
Pretty much the usual.
Pretty good side lane control as well in terms of the Kalista and their Gnar here. Problem is going to be that SK is obviously looking to group as 5, use that Shen ulti to join in as well, and then dive onto the back line. You have Sivir ulti, you have Ekko with the mobility to stun as well, and you have a Gragas to knock Froggen back. So I feel like there's a lot of tools here for SK to try and get onto Froggen, where there's only their Alistar to really try and peel for him, so it can be a very risky pick in that sense. But we've seen it time and time again, because your range is so long, it doesn't even matter how much dive in there can be. If you get to land some of that poke first and build up a big front line with like Rek'Sai, Alistar, Gnar, that's enough to block them from ever getting to you. But that's really going to be the goal for SK once Froggen hits that level 11, gets Luden's Ekko and rank 2 ulti.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how SK is able to break through that, or if they are able to break through that wall. with the Morgana locked in, this is the first time nRated has played at this split. He has preferred the Lulu. As we said, he played a bit of Nautilus early on, but clearly he's going to try for something a little bit different. I want to keep an eye on that bot lane and see how it shakes out. With this, though, do you think we see a chance of Freddy maybe taking a 1v2 and taking a trip down bot?
SK Gaming could... I mean, they have double range into Kalista, Alistar, so no, I think SK Gaming honestly wants the standard lanes. Also because if Shen is Shen into Gnar, it's so much about who gets the first item completed. If Shen becomes tanky very early on because he's in a standard one-on-one lane, it can be very hard for the Gnar to push him out. Gnar needs to get that Black Cleaver under his belt before he can really start becoming a threat to him. So I think SK Gaming will be very happy just having standard lanes here, also with this Morgana lock-in. I don't really like the Morgana too much, though, because you want more all-in potential against this pick here from Froggen.
Oh, yeah. Hey, we can see the back of us.
It's beautiful.
All right, guys, why don't you tell us who you think is going to take this game? The crowd's still here. They're still hyped. And we're about ready to get on to the Rift. Is, of course, going to be SK Gaming versus Elements, starting off right now.
Yeah, let's see what Elements can do once again. They have the options to play it fairly passive in the early game. Have a bit more wave clear, though, this time around. At least from Froggen on his own. We've seen time and time again how people can sit and hold waves or hold towers forever. And then it's going to be about what they can do in the side lanes with the Kalista, with the Gnar. Strong one-on-ones. They want to get that Black Cleaver for Jwaow. Otherwise, Freddy, who played this matchup both ways last week. He was the Gnar, then he was the Shen, and he won both of them.
See if we do get the standard lane as everyone's lined up on the line of scrimmage, how Jwaow is able to do against Freddy in this Gnar matchup. Both top laners starting fairly defensively with the Doran's shields. And of course, you know, been paying special attention of late to the support item since that coin buff in 5.11. It's been increasingly more popular, even on champions that harass quite a lot, like this Morgana. This says to me that nRated is going to try to be a little bit more passive than you typically are on a champion that can, you know, pop out bindings like there's no tomorrow.
Well, also just he wants to get an early talisman for himself because, again, SK Gaming, they know this is about getting to that back line of Elements. You don't want to waste time hitting an Alistar or a Mega Gnar unless Jwaow goes for a very aggressive build. I mean, we've seen Frozen Mallet into Black Cleaver multiple times, which is a good build against Shen for the one-on-one, but it's going to make you weaker in the big team fights.
Right. This game is definitely not going to be about the one-on-one.
It's going to be for Elements.
Keeps the game going, I suppose, in the lanes.
It's another way for Elements to play the game. Here, having the Gnar one-on-one, having the Kalista, who's obviously going to be so strong as well in that case. But at the same time, you also want to play around Froggen and his insane poke once we start hitting that late game, once we start hitting his power spikes. So there are different ways Elements can play it out, but they have to respect the fact that SK wants to dive onto Froggen, which again is why I think Morgana is not the best pick. I would love for something like a Nautilus, where you can a lot easier just target it onto Froggen here or onto Tabzz, and you know you're going to knock them up, and you can then join in with Shen, Ekko, and so on to kill them.
Well, we'll have to see as the game develops. We know Elements like slow and steady pace. However, it hasn't always worked out for them. They typically have a deficit, as we've said on the desk earlier. And we'll see if SK can start to turn an advantage in their favor. For now, though, it's all nice and standard. The junglers are jungling, the laners are laning. And after the Gromp and Krug start, it's going to be SK's bot lane getting the early level 2, forcing Nyph and Tabzz a little bit further back.
A double range here from SK. Pushing that one in as we expected with the Sivir Morgana. And really for Elements, I mean, it's been such a big problem with these side lanes. Tabzz and Jwaow is not performing that well. Especially not in the laning phase. Great trading early on.
In some trouble, yes. Froggen will answer back on the Fox, but still, you've got to be careful as a Cog. He's got the Ghost, he's got the Flash, he might have to use him before too long.
Look at the position of the lane here, though. The wave is pushing in towards Froggen, so now suddenly you have to overextend in the lane to try and push it out. Dexter sees that instantly, and he moves in here, trying to set up a potential gank. If you move too close down on this Ekko, Dexter will go in and force your Flash.
He's going to take a little bit of poke. Dexter still hanging around, waiting in the wings. Svenskeren might run right into him as he starts on the crab. Battle of the buffs. Dexter only sitting on that red. Svenskeren will chase him away successfully.
And now with mid lane pushing for SK Gaming, with the bot lane pushing as well, and they spotted Dexter, he instantly just has to back away. He cannot try and contest this Rift Scuttler here because the two lanes from SK will instantly just move in and be there way earlier than Elements, and then quickly Dexter is in trouble, so he has to just back away, give over that control to Svenskeren, who's into the jungle. Gets in a few deep wards. This is purely because SK are winning these 2 lanes. And Sven loves to play that invade game, trying to look for the enemy jungler.
Well, he's found him once, but now Dexter has gone off the map, sitting back in his own jungle. Sven does get a couple of deep wards out there, too, to make sure that if he does take a trip down to that bottom side again, he'll be spotted. Meanwhile, Freddy and Jwaow continuing to trade out. Freddy is the one pushing this lane, though, versus the Gnar. And he's up in CS.
Yeah, this is what we talked about with Shen into Gnar. If you have that standard lane, it's very hard for the Gnar to push you out because of the sustain you have, and you can just sit and farm fairly safely for Freddy. Then you get that first tank item, say a Sunfire Cape, and then suddenly Gnar never really gets to the point where he can kill you before the laning phase is over. Because again, you want Black Cleaver, but if you rush a Black Cleaver only, it's fairly risky. Then you also want the Frozen Mallet, then it becomes very expensive. Then you need to have some tanky items as well, and suddenly the Gnar is trying to just catch up to Shen. But this is only purely like for the one-on-one in this case here. So Freddy is happy with that start, and it's very important SK got that control of the bot side of the map, got the deep wards in, because it allowed CandyPanda and nRated to keep playing aggressive. Nice engage though from Nyph.
Yeah, speaking of aggressive, Elements have turned on the heat. They look for CandyPanda as he's exhausted, has to flash away. Tabzz got an ignite in his face, and in the end they burn a summoner for a summoner, well, plus a summoner heal and a flash, so 2 for 2.
And very early Black Shield from nRated here. Nyph walked close to him, he used the Black Shield on himself, and that's where Nyph suddenly sees an opening and dives in onto CandyPanda, wins the trade, forces a flash. Dexter is now coming down to this bot lane here. He can just tunnel over the wall. CandyPanda is gonna die.
Sandshark smells the blood. In comes Nyph. There's the summoner heal pop. CandyPanda's down. That's first blood, and Nyph will actually be the one to secure it, as nRated has to back away from this trio of Elements.
Great setup from Nyph here, headbutting onto the minion just to get in range of his knock-up here. Lands it onto CandyPanda. Suddenly Elements turning it around. We mentioned how they've been struggling in the lanes before, and this is a very important early kill for them.
Absolutely, and you know, this is a rare indicator for Elements. They've only secured up till now 3 first bloods in any of their games. They're usually not the team making the first move, but that very well executed. After the trade, both of them stayed in the bot lane, and Elements were the ones who knew how to react. So with that, they secure a slight gold lead and some pressure down bot.
Yeah, very important for Elements. It's really been the problem for them is they've been too passive in the early games. They tried to switch it up last week. We saw a bit more mid-game focused, but then they start missing these spikes here. Didn't have everything ready, and ended up losing to Origin anyway in what became a fairly long game, but a game Origin controlled. Honestly, they were like 3 inhibitors down. They just played super safe. Elements, if they can start winning the lanes, and when you already have the scaling on Froggen, well, then it suddenly looks great for them.
Now it's going to be a little while. He's sitting on, of course, that Tear of the Goddess, stacking away. Meanwhile, Nyph is going to go for a bit of a roam and finds Fox, knocks him into the edge of the bridge, and it will look like Svenskeren will come to the rescue. Dexter comes up and sends a Prey Seeker around the side. A lot of jungle attention being paid to these mid lanes. Top lane, meanwhile, has been in limbo. And of course, down bottom, we've already seen what's happened there, but everything else pretty much even across the board.
But as soon as Elements get that 1 kill bot lane here, they get now a big advantage in items, if you notice it. Tabzz gets the BF sword to only pickaxe and a long sword for CandyPanda. So suddenly now, Tabzz can really trade aggressively in the lane, and that could also open up for Nyph then to keep roaming around. If they push in the bot lane here of SK Gaming, CandyPanda and nRated. A little bit too easy for Nyph before to get that engage on them and force that flash.
I was curious to see what Nyph's really impact is going on later into this game. We
been
want
a good
to talk
start
about his shot calling, but yeah, his play, his mechanics have clearly not suffered from his time off the Rift. And we'll see if this move back, placing Promiscu, does end up being the right one for this Element squad. For the moment, it looks like it.
For now at least. Freddy keeps being in control of the lane, but the Phage already in for Jwaow. Sven might try and set up a gank. Lane is pushed pretty far down, but if Jwaow goes aggressive here, Sven goes in.
And coming out of the bushes instantly, he's going to flash. The big barrel's on, the Mega Gnar's up, and he's gonna have to use that ulti and flash away. Will he stay alive? Freddy goes forward. Jwaow is so low, but Sven's on the chase, taking the tower. He's gonna go down though. And Jwaow makes the most of a situation.
1 for 1 in the end, but Jwaow ends up dying, so the wave is gonna be lost for him. It's gonna be pushed down to the tower. Seemed like he couldn't decide in the end. Do you want to flash away? Do you want to go back in?
Hard to make the decision when
had that Mega Gnar, yeah. Dexter is now back towards the bottom side. He's taking a lot of damage from this dragon.
Yeah, and Fox knows this. He can collapse him. So can nRated and CandyPanda. He's caught. He's pincered. The dragon's even helping. And Fox will take down the Rek'Sai.
Big misplay from Dexter. Again, SK is in a position where their lanes can move very quickly. Takes all the damage from that dragon. nRated though.
Yeah, he had Black Shield on. He wasn't going to get knocked up, but he can't prevent that damage that Tabzz was throwing out there as the Rend took away a bunch of his HP. Nyph now just waiting to set up these plays. Back to Dexter. That really didn't help Element's cause right there.
No, they got the one-for-one top lane. Had a good start in the bottom lane. Honestly, just had to continue playing it out the way they did. No reason to risk giving up any kills here. Nyph, being a bit of a bully to nRated. This is what we mentioned with the difference in items. Once you get that BF sword on a Kalista, you suddenly have so much potential to all in when you hit level 6 as well. CandyPanda no flash. He has to play very safe down here. So all the pushing we saw early on is completely stopped from SK Gaming. Mid lane is just going to be this farm fest for Froggen, where he will keep pushing out the waves, and the Ekko will try and look for an opening to either jump Froggen or maybe try and roam away. But it's so tough when your lane gets killed instantly. Like, your minions arrive and then Froggen is like, blop, and they did.
And look at this too. Froggen is having no trouble in this lane at all. He's got a 20 CS or so lead on Fox. He's just shredding through these minions with the Voidoos, and Fox has really got no answer for this, and they're not able to dive him like you said. This Kog'Maw is a ticking time bomb, and SK has to react before it blows.
They're trying now at least. Sven coming in. See if they can do anything.
Ghost is on, throws the barrel. Instant flash from Froggen. Good reaction, but he burns 2 summoners for it.
Not taking any chances. Dexter trying to respond in the bottom lane. The wave is pushing towards Elements, so now they can either zone away SK or they go straight for the gank.
Yep, Dexter's gonna get the knock up onto nRated. Fate's Call comes out, in comes the cow, and he knocks nRated back, but there's a Shen coming in, and there he is to make it a 3v3. Nyph is gonna be caught between 3 right now, and as tanky as he is, SK Gaming will polish him off, courtesy of a Dark Binding from nRated.
And instant as we see the TP coming down for Freddy, Sven goes up to the top lane, trying to clear out the wave, stopping Jwaow from getting a lot of damage on the tower. Elements try to set up the gank, ends up giving a kill to SK, and not really a whole lot gained from Elements here in that case. Good little move around from SK.
No, they had a good early game. They had that nice quick pickup, but the tables have turned. The barrels have rolled. SK Gaming are now the ones in control of the game, albeit it's still a slim lead. We're only talking 600 gold here, Deficio, but they're the ones that are making proactive plays, and the game is trending towards them.
And they are also the ones who wants to be team in charge here, the team who can force the fights and not allow Froggen to sit and be a poke machine, not allow Elements to split up into 1-3-1. We talked about that black flavor, how important it was in this matchup. Jwaow already completed his. It means if there is a team fight, he's not going to be very strong. But if he gets to sit in the one-on-one and just poke away in the Shen, that's where he shines. But if SK Gaming gets to the point where they can start forcing team fights, Elements never really get to put up that 1-3-1 setup they potentially can do with Jwaow.
And every team knows that this is what they like to do anyways, prolong that laning phase. You can see it right there. That first dragon that they usually do take doesn't come in until about 17 minutes into the game. We're still a little bit of ways away from that. SK tend to take it a little bit quicker, but this is also a team that, of the bottom 5 teams in the league right now, they actually take pretty much the most dragons. They prioritize this just like they did in spring.
Use it as a tool to snowball the game or maybe force you into team fights. I like this control here from SK in the river with the pink wards. When you play against a more passive laner, you can often take over the river completely and use that to set up roam, set up ganks. So Sven's going to make it hard for Dexter to go everywhere, anywhere. And also it opens up for potential dragons if Elements is not in position. So I like the whole setup here from SK, playing around that mid lane. Gets it cleared, and of course CandyPanda has finally picked up a BF sword, so he got to push out the bot lane as well.
And they were able to do this in plain sight, really, because that Scuttle Crab was controlled by Elements, but they weren't in a position to react to it.
Both lanes pushed down, yeah.
Yeah, goes to SK. It's earlier than their average, too, and this is because Elements, they're not interested in stopping that.
Well, you can't really do a whole lot. If you're getting pushed down in your lanes, you're always going to move a bit too late, and even when you move, you might end up losing quite some CS because that's going to be pushed into your tower. So it's simply just a very quick move from SK, and unless Elements are reading it and ready to respond instantly, it's just too late, and then Dragon goes down very quickly. But it's also an Elements mentality. It's often one more wave, you know, just pick up one more wave of farm. I mean, Froggen is winning the mid lane. Tabzz is winning the bot lane as well. So they are doing well in the laning phase in that sense. But SK Gaming are looking, once you get Infinity Edge on CandyPanda, once you get towards an Hourglass on your Ekko, that's where you're going to start really looking to force fights.
Let's see if they take that timing window properly. Fox, after a bit of a scouting mission, runs on out of that jungle and some help from Svenskeren. So, still back to the lanes, but it is a little bit more tricky now. 14.5 minutes have elapsed on the clock. We've only had 5 kills on the board, and a lot of those came pretty early in, but it's been almost like a truce between these two teams for a little while.
And now after you got that BF zone on CandyPanda, I would love to see Sven come down to this bot lane here, start putting some pressure, because you can keep clearing the wave. You can keep pushing into the tower of elements, and Tabzz takes quite a lot of time to clear out the waves. And then if they're stuck on the tower, either you get some poke damage on them, damage on the bot lane tower, or you just use that to invade into their jungle, start setting up these wards here we saw earlier, and therefore you take control of one side of the map. At the moment, they're trying to look towards this top lane here, see if they can set up a possible dive. Another good option for them, but they need to be careful they don't lose anything on the bot side, because you can see elements, they're moving already.
Elements are moving down to the bot side, and now Nyph and Tabzz are moving into action. Black Shield's on, they're going to turn it around, throw the Soul Shackles pump. Immediately, Tabzz is going to flash away and throw the Fate's Call, slingshots him back in. Elements have arrived in the form of Froggen and Dexter, and nRated just trying to dodge out as we've got a tense pause here. Oh, this could end very bloody.
Seems to be CandyPanda here in the middle of the fight. Elements were saying, okay, we know you're setting up for a potential dive on the top side, so we're just going to rush down bottom lane and then trade towers, maybe get a kill or two. SK Gaming not playing around the fact they have this Sivir who can just push it in over and over.
Yeah, this is going to be really...
What a moment to pause.
I know, right? It's like I'm on the edge of my seat. We know, we pretty much think that right now, first to fall has got to be nRated, but let's just sort of like take stock of where we are in the game, take a breather. It's a 1,000k gold lead to SK, but I feel like that's going to turn around pretty quickly with some kills here. Freddy's still sitting in that bot side. There's a bunch of Elements members all around him. But I mean, this is like pausing, not before the big boss fight and like trying to save your game. This is like trying to save your game in the middle of it.
Let's see what happens with it here. So for SK Gaming now, really the goal is you need to start taking down some of these towers here. You need to start pushing Elements into a corner where it becomes very difficult for them to set up poke with Froggen or set up a 1-3-1 setup, because there's always this chance of SK Gaming just hard engaging somewhere on the map. Because once you start pushing down to towards your own tier 2 towers, your map obviously gets a lot smaller. And with the mobility of a Sivir, Shen ulti as well, I mean, there are a lot of ways then for SK to quickly move between the lanes and just create a numbers advantage, get that kill onto you, and then suddenly Elements get to a point where it becomes too hard for them to even push out of the base. As long as we have the standard laning phase, no towers goes down. Froggen just becomes stronger and stronger and stronger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we mentioned it earlier. I mean, this Luden's Kog'Maw, we've seen it work wonders for a lot of teams. Power of Evil in particular was doing an insane amount of his team's damage, even in the Unicorn's loss.
Pepinero earlier today.
Pepinero, yeah, and now Froggen, we know that this is a guy who's going to be safe in lane, who's going to get himself ahead in the farm game. We've seen this happen versus this Ekko. There have been several attempts on his life, but he survived them all.
Survived all of them so far, at least, and now we have to see what obviously happens down this bottom lane. If they get a kill and they manage to push it into a tower themselves, then suddenly Elements will even out the goal, and that's going to, once again, make it difficult for SK to make plays. But I like how there are different options. Either you go down to the bottom lane if you're SK Gaming, you use that Sivir to push in a tower, or you try and go top lane and you set up a dive with the Shen, who's obviously so tanky already. Lock down that Gnar. If he's sitting in mini now on that tower, he's not going to do anything. Kill him, take a tower. Like, you need something to start speeding up the game.
Yeah, I like that strategy, actually. But the thing with SK is, though, they were, while this was all happening, they were still kind of moving about in the Elements jungle. And when the action started happening, they immediately started moving towards that. Right at the moment this pause happened, they're literally in the mid lane, like on their way. So do they then just like turn their attention and immediately like push down mid because they've already moved away from top lane?
You do. And
that's a good trade right there. But like, will they? I mean, I guess when you have the time to think about it, it prompts these kinds of decisions.
I mean, yeah, obviously for SK, they know it's too late to go down and help the bottom lane at this point. So yeah, just take that mid tower, trade 2 towers if it is, or tower for tower. Again, you are the ones who wants to open up the map. So if you get a mid lane tower, it opens up every entrance into the jungle of Elements suddenly, and that's where you can start playing around. Ekko might be able to roam. You just put CandyPanda in the mid lane. He sits there and wave clears over and over. nRated then can move he's often the guy in terms of vision who's in control of it, so he can start moving from the mid lane, quickly to top, quickly to bot lane, depends on where he wants to go. And you can also put this Ekko here in a side lane, which is something SK Gaming likes to do, push in these lanes here, then group up with the Sivir ulti and force a fight onto Elements once you start pushing them down into lane. So I feel like that's still a good option for SK.
That works in with the game plan. It looks like we've got, at the moment, CandyPanda hopping back in. We'll see if that ends the pause. But again, just take stock. We're at 15 minutes in. It has been a slight lead for SK Gaming. And that's just because of this, that game plan you're talking about, this proactive movements. But they've got a lot to worry about on the side of Elements. Froggen is getting out of control. And Elements
slowly.
It is very slow because there isn't like any vast movement that's immediately getting them like a huge edge, a big fight or anything like that. Elements are trying to stay rooted in their laning phase, even if they're going to have skirmishes around the way. But this has been their calling card all split long, and granted it's not worked well for them, but SK is also just kind of finding their footing.
For sure, and I think the way they handle this game here, again, it still leaves them with so many options of how they want to play it, because you have the 1-3-1 setup yourself with Shen top lane. We've seen Freddy go even with the Gnar, even slightly winning the lane. You have the Ekko. I think it's fine you wait for one item before you really start speeding up the game in Sivir compositions. We know how Ekko scales pretty well as well. You want to get towards something like an Hourglass, so you get to the point where you can really dive in onto Froggen, pop that Hourglass, wait for your shadow thingy to follow you in, and you have a fantastic burst comp. You can do a burst combo, but we're simply going to have to see how SK wants to play out. We saw them just put some focus around the top lane. That ended up not working because Freddy had to TP down to the bottom lane instead. But also just looking at the entire league, there's so much talk right now about the top 3 teams in Europe. Origin, Fnatic, H2K, clear-cut top 3. We can even say clear-cut number 1, 2, and 3 at the moment. And then it's just all these other teams fighting each other. Nobody's too far away from each other to still catch up. Because, again, it's all about making playoffs at first.
And there's effectively 3 spots up for grabs when you take the top 3 out of the situation. So this is where like the real like cutthroat action happens. And the crazy thing is, for a while we had these clear-cut divisions of where these teams were, but that has completely blown itself out of the water because teams that were stepping up have kind of fallen a little by the wayside, and vice versa. These 2 teams, Elements, they've had a little bit better luck or better games, I would say, in recent weeks. And now with Nyph, it's maybe looking a little like short up. I was still want to see how long this game goes. True, but they are looking a little bit more proactive in this particular game right now, and we'll keep track of that as the game goes on. But for SK, yes, they went 2-0. Yes, there's a debate as to whether or not those games weren't maybe a little bit easier than you might have thought. But it's still 2 wins or 2 wins, looking up a little bit for them. And this is the first week that we're going in saying, hey, you know what? This is a team that's actually making moves and trying to make some plays. But that's it for us right now. As the pause continues, we're going to go ahead and throw it to the analyst desk to break down what's happened so far.
Thank you very much, Pyra. Full desk here to analyze what happened so far. Let's hear your thoughts on the picks and bans, as we haven't yet. Something we didn't touch on that much when we were here on the desk with us is the Lulu pick that came out of SK, which helped them a lot. Which was banned, which was a good adaptation by Elements. Mitch.
Yes, as you say it right there. Instead of picking it, it was banned this time. And this is something we actually touched on in like our preparation for this week. And we wondered, SK, they started winning. Why? Because they went for this comfortable pick on nRated that they could just safely push those lanes with. They have triple push, and then Svenskeren feels back in his element, and he could start invading. And I think I like this ban from Elements right here. Banning out the Lulu, not quite convinced why you would ban out a Vayne. Yes, you get Kalista, but you give away a Sivir, even though that matchup's really easy. On theory, on paper, Sivir is just brings so much utility.
But Elements as a team has never prioritized Sivir.
Yeah, but they first pick Kalista, so why would you give away the Sivir? You're going to get the Kalista.
Well, they must be very afraid of CandyPanda's Vayne.
Yeah, I mean, I just think if you look at the game so far, nice adaptations from the picks and bans. I like seeing the Vlad targeted away. Froggen's had some good performances on actually both of those respective champions. And I think the standard lanes, it's been a slower pace. Both Elements and SK have got much bigger problems that they need to be working on, and we're not seeing super aggressive, super confident plays from either of these teams. So, I want to see how they're going to break open the match, and this team fight that unfortunately got paused could have been a big momentum swing.
It really could have been a big momentum swing. One thing that I kind of wanted to touch on was the top lane and the fact that Freddy now has the Shen that's actually been working out for him. And we've seen the Shen Gnar matchup again. There's a big contrast in Freddy's stats over weeks 1 to 3 and week 4. You look at 1 to 3, he had 0.84 KDA and only 54% kill participation. Last week, 7 KDA, 76% kill participation. He's in another matchup that he feels comfortable in. He's 0-0-2 and slightly ahead in CS. There is a kill on that Gnar, though.
Yeah, and impressive stats on Freddy, and the most impressive part is that he played a mirror matchup. He played Shen into Gnar and Gnar into Shen, so he understands both sides of it. This time, though, he's playing the Shen into the Gnar in even lanes, which usually favors the Gnar because he'll eventually get that Black Cleaver and be able to penetrate a lot of that armor and reduce that and beat Freddy to a pulp later. But what I really don't like, and this ties into the Shen point as well, is that Elements keeps ganking the bot lane. If you play against the Sivir Morgana, yes, you may get some kills, but she will always bring the utility. Now, of course, the pause we're at right now, it's working out because Froggen joined the party and nRated looked like he's about to go down. But in the big picture of things, every time you aggress on the bot lane, Shen will ulti there, save you, it'll neutralize. So this is how you usually deal with globals. Why wait for the global to come to you? Why don't you go to the global and take him out? Why don't you gank the TF first? Why don't you gank the Shen first? Take him out and then aggress on the bot lane. I feel that's perhaps something Elements could look or could have looked at doing.
Yeah, and also something, talking about Froggen, he's playing that AP Cog. It's the first time in summer we're seeing it in his hands. Today has definitely been dominated by the poke champions. The Varus mid, Jace, you know, Kog'Maw again. A lot of regions are playing with those poke mids, but up until this week, I feel it's been much lower on the priority list for European teams and European mid laners. So it's interesting to see that now all of a sudden we hit week 5, we hit this like halfway point, and now these players are now transitioning almost fully onto 5.10 poke, 11 poke.
Now, the thing what speaks most in favor of poke champions is that they, additional to just being able to poke and siege, they bring out a lot of wave clear. And wave clear allows you to control the tempo of the game, really. And once you control the tempo of the game, it's more forgiving when you make mistakes. Elements, we saw them push back very often and not be able to deal with those pushes and those map rotations. But now with AP Kog'Maw, like, once you hit that Ludens, the wave just evaporates immediately and allows you to match your opponent's style, and if your opponent gets a little ahead, you can at least try and catch up. Yeah,
I'm talking about people getting ahead. Svenskeren, we were looking at some of the numbers, and last week, he really stepped up. He had some great performances, played that Ekko for the first time, and what was good to see with SK and Sven last week is they were pushing these lanes out very aggressively. They got a lot of control. Sven ended up stealing 8 of his opponent's buffs over the course of their 2 games last week. The next closest was Unicorns of Love and Rocket, who respectively stole 3 each. I mean, that is a big, big, big difference and a big stylistic way that Sven was impacting the game by getting into the enemy jungle, by controlling their objectives, and helping the rest of his lanes get ahead. This particular game, slightly less of that. It has been much more even. It's been a much more, you know, trading back and
different
forth.
Team composition entirely. Yeah, exactly. This is the opposite of SK and Spring,
yes.
Whereas the 1-3-1 aggressive invade, right now they're playing a group composition, and that's what you need to do with Sivir. Group up and win and eventually get that hard engage. I just want to see how the Ekko ties in. That's my only question, because usually you want to lure people backwards, Chrono Break back in time, and you get that massive AoE damage, whereas SK always seems to be going forward. So, tricky to play, but yeah.
Maybe the Gragas barrel will knock a target backwards.
Play ping pong.
Fox to Chrono Break 2. That's my prediction.
Yeah, because that's the level of coordination we've seen from SK so far.
And Elements,
hey, aim for the moon, and if you miss, you'll still be with the stars.
Oh, you'll crash and burn.
I'm right here with all the stars.
Aww.
What are you going to say, Stray?
I was just going to say about how difficult, as Kerpo said, it is to get that Chrono Break. Then you put in the added range between Kog'Maw and what he wants. And factor into this, Froggen played Ekko previously. And now now Froggen's playing against the Ekko. He's going to know exactly how big that range is and how much he needs to avoid. He's running the double mobility summoners with the Ghost, with the Flash. So at most times in this, really Ekko shouldn't be getting on top of the Kog'Maw without a good flank into the fight.
Now, we haven't really touched upon the return of Nyph. Obviously, he had a we'd promise you not so big shoes to fill, but the support previously that obviously left quite the mark.
Yeah, I was going to say, I see a sparkle in your eyes when you're talking about
Alistar player too, that guy, by the way. Look up the VODs, guys. But Nyph, he's been comfortable so far, in my opinion. He's been playing well. Aggression coming out with Tabzz, and they played a lane which requires a lot of synergy. The Alistar bot lane requires you to be in sync and just make those plays and then get that percentual damage out. And so far, they've not been afraid to go one aggressive, and that in a double spell shield lane, landing those engages. If it weren't for the Shen, I feel SK would have been in a whole lot of trouble.
Secured first blood as well.
Yeah, and separate to the mechanical plays that Nyph is performing to, or how well he's performing, something that we discussed in the office is the impact that Nyph could bring to the shot calling and to the mindset of the players. This is a guy who's been in the coach role, who's been in the picks and bans role, and who's had a better holistic view of all of the players. So we need to see whether or not he can translate what he's learned from being a coach to being a player, because Stress alluded to it in the pregame that we've not seen a situation like this before.
Yeah, very often in a history of playing, you'd play a game and it'd go wrong, or you don't really find the answer, and then you get out of the game and your coach will start going, you did this wrong, I can't believe you guys did this. Why are you not listening to me?
Yeah.
And then now that coach is on the pitch, and he should have every idea.
Was Nyph that coach, seeing as though...
He was one of them. He looks calm on the outside, but then he will tell you, like, guys, why are you not listening to me? I told you 4 times in a row.
So the question is then, Stress, it's something actually we touched on as well when Amazing was on the desk before he got into the LCS, and you're saying all those things and you see all those things, but how hard is it? Because he's concentrating on getting back into the LCS, Nyph, and playing, being there, that Stress, mechanical, looking at the map. How much can you really translate in the very first game that you're back?
Honestly, it's such a difficult question to answer because it's very player-specific on what problems each player has, and then how you transition that kind of bird's eye view, holistic view, as you said. It's difficult to keep track of everything, so I wouldn't really want to talk for Nyph specifically, but certainly it's a lot of balls to juggle, and if you can't hold on to all of them, something's going to give, and typically it is that shot calling aspect. Yeah,
definitely. I can attest for it's easy to play at home, but once you get into that chair and you look up and there's like a couple hundred people sitting in front of you, and those headsets suddenly have white noise in them, the crowd's reacting when your opponents make a nice move, it becomes harder to stay on top of all the things, mostly looking at the minimap, because you're focused so much on playing that 2v2 and you really don't want to make that mistake, but then you lose track of what's going on, and you know, maybe one of your teammates is acting different like he does at home. Maybe he's super vocal at home, but right now he's getting pressured, so he's gonna, you know, choke or tilt or be quiet or whatever, and then there's so many variables, and that's what I think the biggest mark is for a great team, is that if they can perform as well as they can at home as they can on stage, and you know, deliver that same consistency in terms of communication, in terms of just individual plays, and not to be afraid to make those plays.
Yeah, and then you're doing fine, you got that first blood, and then there's a pause because there was a faulty keyboard, but it is fixed now, fantastically. So things are ready to go on stage, and we're going to hand it back over to Deficio and get back in that game.
Thank you very much, Shocks. We are going to go ahead and take it from here. So, Deficio built a little bit of suspense, I would say, for this fight that is kind of hanging in midair. We've got Ekko on the rift, but of course I think maybe there's Zillion in the background freezing it all up. So here we go, back into the game. Let's see how it goes. I'm gonna go throw it out, instantly healed and flash away, and nRated's gonna stay safe, but Freddy may not be so lucky. The binding's coming out, and amazingly, no one's gonna die today.
And we talk about this mid lane here from SK Gaming. I like the adaptation, saying we cannot make it down to the bottom lane, so we at least take a mid tower. Element's gonna try and take the bot lane down and see if Froggen can get any kills.
Oh, we're not done yet. Freddy goes in, and nRated, he's gonna have to flash out, and CandyPanda as well. Elements have muscled SK away from this, but now they're backing off as they've run out of minions. Svenskeren coming around the side.
2 people on the way down. Sven is going in. He has a TP.
Belly bump. That's going to be a teleport, though, for Jwaow, and it's canceled as the minion Dark Binding came out. Jwow's going to stay unopposed on the top side. And after all of that, what do we say to the God of Death, Deficio?
Well, in the end, well, not today. Nobody from SK went down. They got a mid tower. Top lane tower went down as well. Those are teams here, like they've done pretty much the entire game, just trading back and forth here. Okay, you get a little bit here, we get a little bit there. Opens up the map around the mid lane, which is important for SK Gaming. And I want to see what build we get on this Ekko here. I really like Hourglass if you're building for team fight, because it gives you that way of getting your Shadow into the mix, because like you jump in, you do your entire combo, you then pop the Hourglass, you have 2 seconds where you wait, and then Shadow follows you in, and then suddenly your ulti can be used. And you can just play a bit more aggressive with it. If you want to be more of a split pusher, then Lich Bane is a great second item. We've seen many different options. It just depends on how SK wants to play out the combo. Obviously, it's about pushing the lanes and then grouping with the Sivir, pop that ulti. But nobody's really going to stop an Ekko in the late game from Elements, because we know Gnar is going to be against the Shen all day long. With this Black Cleaver, it should start going in favor of Jwaow, but slowly only. Freddy will be able to sit and hold his own for a long time. Problem for Shen obviously is the fact you don't have any wave clear. You will always get pushed back quite heavily, and that's where Gnar can push him in, and then suddenly Jwaow might be able to roam around.
Makes you wonder if Elements don't turn their attention up to this top side. It's really been super quiet up there. Yes, there's one tower that went down. They were able to send a number of members that way, but since then, they've not really looked for it. And they don't really need to because it's so early on in this game. Another Dragon's due to come up, but it's still going to be a minute and a half away. Remember, SK secured that one a little early by their standards, but they're looking to set up the control of the vision. They've got the crowd down. And now Elements they're moving in position to try and negate this advantage that SK's got.
And this is really what you want to do against some sort of poke. I'm going to say Froggen, almost going to say poke composition. It's not, but when you have Froggen here on a scaling champion like this, it's enough poke for you to have to really respect it. And of course, Elements want to play around it. You need to get in early here and establish that vision near these objectives, so you cannot, or so the other team cannot go in and face check you. They have to like sit back and might even have to surrender it. CandyPanda gets the bot lane tower. We kept talking about how the Sivir was pushing in the lane over and over. Suddenly the map opens up here for SK Gaming. Dragon should belong to them with all these wards here. If Elements want to fight, it's going to be blind, and it's going to be so difficult for them to do that.
And we know how risk averse they usually tend to be. And that means probably not going to be seeing those fights for a little while. nRated and CandyPanda are hoping for that, but it's not going to happen at this exact moment. Nyph is going to make a beeline for the pink ward, but nRated and CandyPanda actually going to try to defend this one. They go in on the hunt, and everything is popped, but that, of course, means instant Fate's call. Nyph is back to safety. You cannot catch this cow when he's got a Kalista backing him up.
Yeah, don't do that when Kalista is so close. You just use 2 ultis before this Dragon here. You don't have teleport and Jwaow yet from the side of Elements, but they're moving in now. They're feeling more confident. There's suddenly a lot less pressure from SK. Elements allowing to move close. And Dexter is over on the wall. No poke landed from Froggen yet.
See if you can go in. Sends the Praise Seeker. It will not be enough. SK Gaming managed to secure Drake number 2. While this push still continues up top.
And Jwaow managed to get a red buff. Plus the black flavor. He's in full control of the lane now. Keep pushing down Freddy to the tower. Elements as well had the move to go into the mid lane. And suddenly the poke starts landing. SK Gaming cannot just sit back and wait. They need to just pop that Sivir ulti once it's ready and go for the fight. But they just wasted it before on an Alistar who had a Kalista to pull him out.
Yeah, when you don't have that foresight, you can end up paying for it. But now, the tower is very low. They're going to have to start backing away. You can already see the channel going through. That's going to, of course, be the Ekko backing away. Fox won't be there, but CandyPanda and nRated are going to be able to defend for now. Meanwhile, though, Sideways being pushed by Elements. This is something we said that they struggle with in these games, and looks like they've recognized that's a problem. They're working on it.
It's a fine setup. Elements right here with the poke, knowing there's no hard engage from SK, and we get to see what they can do grouping around Froggen, and then we keep talking about what Elements also can do in the side lanes with the Kalista with Gnar. Tabzz is down in the bottom lane, pushing that one in. Will have to be on his own though. Nyph is joining in, but CandyPanda is here to try and play it out. So for Elements suddenly finally gets a chance to use Froggen. They get a bot lane tower as well for it. This one took quite some damage before.
Tabzz took a huge amount as well. They actually back off. It's near to going down, but still, this is dangerous for them. nRated and CandyPanda, they're going to go ahead and pop on the hunt. Another Fate's call. Teleport coming in. They turn around onto nRated, but instantly the Shen is going to come out as well. Turning his attention to CandyPanda is Jwaow, but in comes the Shen. Gets the taunt off. In comes Mega Gnar, and he's going to smash down that bot lane. Nyph picks up a kill on nRated, and Fox immediately 180s and turns back the way he came.
Yeah, I still don't like that. You pop double ulti against an Alistar. First of all, Kalista can pull him back. Then he has his own ulti to break the CC and not take any damage. Way too easy for Elements to react here. TP in from Jwaow. 2 easy kills for themselves now. Bot lane tower did end up going down in the end, and suddenly, even in gold, you still have that scaling coming in for Froggen. No more double ulti on the Alistar.
No, I think SK has to learn that lesson. It's punished them once definitely right there and made it difficult to defend their mid lane another time. So very aggressive movements from this CandyPanda and nRated bot lane are not bearing any fruit.
So Froggen just picked up a blue buff. He's sitting on 1300 gold. I would still love to see him just stay in that mid lane because you just got those 2 ultis popped. So once again, you can set up a group. There's no TP or there's no ulti from the Shen. Instead, though, he goes back to base, gets his Seraph. Missing out a little bit of a time here. Ulti will be ready for CandyPanda, suddenly giving SK a chance now to start a fight. That could have been a very easy group for Elements in that mid lane instead.
time being, though, things have calmed down just a little bit. SK Gaming still holding on to the slimmest of gold leads, just about 200. And they have, of course, the 2 dragons to their name, even in towers at the same number. And it really has been all about the element reactions to SK's actions. Look at that, though. We talked about it a little earlier, Deficio, but that hourglass is completed. Is time running out here for elements?
Oh, no, by no means. They are more than happy, still waiting for Froggen in this game here. So we see it's full teamfight focus from SK with the build. Hourglass, no Lich Bane, second item. They have to find a way to use it. Quick move on top side, but Elements has already spotted and gets to play it out. Froggen still sitting in the mid lane. And we have that problem here that Freddy is going to get pushed in against the Gnar every single time. So the other 4 members of SK needs to be grouped to then force the fight on Elements. Otherwise, you get to the point where Elements gets to keep pushing in 1 wave at a time on the side here of Jwaow versus Freddy. And that means he's stuck on the tower, and then suddenly the rest of Elements only have 2 lanes they need to worry about. And be like, okay, when can we group here? We need to watch out for this potential engage coming, but you're also going to spot it because Freddy's obviously going to sit ready to use it, and then Jwaow has to respond in time.
Well, right now it's really been Jwaow making the slightly quicker moves, but it's been in the bot lane they focused all their attention. Now, Froggen could be in some trouble. In comes the belly bump into a flash away from him as he's knocked away after the barrel comes in. Jwaow there trades his place, and Dexter comes around the side of Big Gnar, will push SK Gaming back, but the Big Gnar becomes little, and now Svenskeren in a little bit of trouble. The Shen was coming in, and it is going to be a little bit late on that as Fox tries to go deep for Jwaow, but he gets knocked back. He's going to pop his hourglass. They're waiting. He's going to chrono break his way back to safety. And once again, nobody goes down in all of that. SK Gaming running away as Elements chasing at their heels.
So again, ASK, they have the right plan. The problem is they weren't all grouped together. They were just missing a little bit of damage. Happened to be the Ekko who was running down from the top lane when the engage happened. That allows Elements to disengage, even though Froggen was caught in the middle of the lane at first, and then slowly turn it around. They take down the mid lane tower. Once again, a lot of ult is being used from SK, and they don't really gain a whole lot from it.
Really, it has been a game of SK making the plays, but Elements, you might as well call them compounds, because at this point, their reactions are getting good. Yeah, that's right. I just made a chemistry joke. So SK Gaming, you want me to give you a minute?
No.
All right. SK Gaming, they do seem to be aware of the fact that they have to deal with Froggen here, but they're really going about it the wrong way. Like, why do they keep making these knee-jerk decisions to jump in with Sivir without even the entire team?
Maybe a little bit desperate for SK Gaming, not knowing exactly what, how they're gonna stop Froggen. I mean, but then again, we can see the plan here. There's good gank at first onto him. Dragon is alive. Elements already started it. Freddy had no ulti this time around, so SK decides not to go for the fight. Also, CandyPanda back in base and just traded for top tower instead. So all the outer turrets are gone now. The map is open. Now your focus has to be on your vision here. How do you manage to set it up so you can force a fight on Elements? In your case here as SK Gaming, you pick 2 lanes. You don't have to go for the full map. Take 2 lanes where you take the jungle, which is between the 2 lanes. Let's say it's top and bot lane. Oh, sorry, top and mid lane. So you also get the Baron control. That's where you focus your vision right now. Use your Shen in the opposite side to sit there in the one-on-one with his ulti, with his TP. And then you force Elements to come in and face check you around one of these objectives. You pop that Sivir ulti, and suddenly you have a big 5-on-5 team fight where Froggen wasn't allowed to sit and poke first. If you keep playing around just the standard lanes, Froggen will find time to land poke. You will drop too low, and you'll have to go back to base, or someone has to go out and clear side wave, and then suddenly again, you're never really grouped. And you always seem to just lack that one piece because you are meant to be together.
And this is the problem, too. You said it earlier that Elements is not a poke comp, but with that Kog'Maw, you still you still have to treat it like one. And there are options for this Elements team.
Let's make it clear. It definitely is very poke focused with Froggen here. There are just other ways Elements also can play it out because they have the Kalista, because they have the Gnar for the side lane control. Froggen alone is going to offer enough poke
that SK really has to respect. So they're trying to get this group up, but there's a lot of mobility on this Element side too. You can see that coin popped, of course. Mentioned that was picked up by Nyph. So Yes, there's one on the side of SK. Yes, there's an on the hunt, but they just don't seem to have the jump on this Elements team, evading them in every corner.
Yeah, it's too easy for Elements to just go back and regain control of whatever area SK just tried. We just saw them go for the top side of the map, near that Baron. Instant Elements just goes back in and clears it out. We need to see the potions being sold on your Gragas, on your Ekko. You need pink wards on the map. If you want to strangle Elements, if you want to push them into a corner where they can't risk walking into their own jungle, then you need the pinks. Green wards doesn't do the job enough because it's too easy for Elements to place their own green wards and see everything that's going on and look for picks themselves.
Yep, they might find it, but Fox is going to have a little bit of backup in the form of Shen. In comes Freddy. In comes the rest of SK out of nowhere, and Tabzz is ping-ponged around to a kill for Fox, immediately prompting SK to move up towards this Baron. Are they going to go for this? There's a Gnar with teleport, but he's in the bottom lane. Oh, they're going to go for this bait.
Guess if Elements is jumping in and not using their teleport as well, it doesn't really matter then. I guess SK Gaming can just start the Baron.
Oh, there's the teleport coming in. That means SK is going to back off of this one. Even so, at best, it's still a 4v5. SK get a little spooked there, it looked like.
Yeah, Tabzz ends up going down. I think he got taunt flashed by Freddy. Could react in time himself. Freddy then using teleport to go back and clear the waves out. So just one kill for SK Gaming. TP used. That's very key though, because it's very important for Elements they can use Jwaow to sit in one of these side lanes, and he won't be able to. The ulti from Freddy will be ready in time. So if SK keeps playing around the top side of the map, Freddy will be able to join from the bottom lane. That's something they have to be able to use now to force a fight on Elements.
Indeed they do. So, getting close to that 30-minute mark, it's really been a game of action, reaction, take a dragon, you take a dragon, a lot of trades. It really has been like the two teams just kind of bartering with one another and respecting a little bit too. But when you're at this point, we talked about where these teams are, we talked a little bit about the standings. When you're on the lower end of the table, even in the bottom 7, as we've been really talking about, how much does that play into your mindset of you know, we want to get ourselves into a good situation, but we also want to keep ourselves out of this relegation territory? And does that turn into playing to win to playing not to lose? Well,
as long as the league is so close between these 7 teams here, I don't think too many of them worry too much about the relegation at the moment. It's just about how much can you improve every week, because you know you have some problems you need to fix. And it's just a race between all 7 teams and who can fix them the fastest, and then start getting these wins by the end of the split and get into the playoff. That should be your concern, 100%.
Well, and for Elements too, you know, their answer to that question so far has been, hey, you know, our support's not really stacking up. Let's see what Nyph can do. Right now, 2-1 on the cow. You could say Scumbag support stealing kills, but you know, he's been really active in helping things out. He has absolutely earned it. And SK Gaming just haven't had an answer. Even when he's been in a bad spot, Tabzz has immediately utilized that Kalista ult to bring him back into the fray. And let's see what happens here as he goes on in, looks for Svenskeren, in comes the Shen ulti, and SK are going to turn it right around, get the taunt onto Jwaow. Gnar comes out, can they still turn the fight? Dexter looks for Fox, who goes golden. Nyph has to flash out, he's going to go down, and in comes Svenskeren. Freddy, they'll all be backing off, but they're happy in the fact that they've taken at least 1 kill, while a wave continues to push down bot.
Not over yet here, Elements, they're still poking away Froggen. Trying to see what he can do, if he can force SK back to base and then potentially gain anything from it. But we saw SK, they kept sitting around the mid lane because they were waiting for Freddy to push it in. And then as they lost vision of Elements, they felt like they had to walk in there. They would probably have loved for Freddy to just sit and take the bot lane tower. There was no TP for Jwaow. That's what we talked about, Freddy being on the opposite side of the map.
A lot of back and forth fights, very hard to call, and in the end, it's a 1 for none, and the caster curse is in full effect as we talk about how well Nyph's able to set things up. He does do a great setup, but they can't follow through, and in the end, he's the sacrifice that Elements make as SK Gaming managed to grab the 1, and they get a little pressure on that bottom tower, but now they've got to react to the wave up top.
Yeah, Elements will be happy that SK moved into that river because they wanted a fight to start to get Freddy away from that bot lane. Because otherwise, he was just going to take a tower for free, and there's nothing Elements could do to really stop him other than start a Baron. That would have been a lot harder for them to do if they're taking damage from the Baron itself, and SK then coming in with their Shen ulti. So they wanted SK to walk in there, take the 5-on-5, because now they're going to get that TP back from Jwaow. It's not the most exciting thing to talk about the summoners all the time, but it's what's going to be key for both teams and how they want to play it out. Jwawow's sneaking a dragon on his own. SK is still around that Baron.
Yeah, with this Gnar, they're able to get it done. So, That one is going to go down for Elements. It will be 2-4-2. Meanwhile, the fight over the blue buff commences, and it looks like Elements have won that one on their home turf. Gnar will back away. Nicely played out by Elements. They're still behind in the gold game, but it's only 2,000. And as the game goes on, that matters less and less. They've secured another Drake versus SK.
It really is the same again for SK Gaming. They don't have the proper vision control down. They don't have enough pink wards. 2 sweepers could be upgraded as well if you really want to try and force Elements to face check you. Otherwise, we keep seeing it. Nyph just goes in, pops down 1 ward. They see where SK is, and okay, we can now go back to our lanes and push it in. And SK never seems to get that chance to pop that Sivir ulti to engage. See what happens here. Nyph is the guy who wanted to start something.
As you say it though, the On the Hunt's immediately used in a defensive manner. And SK Gaming are out that ultimate for a little while. It becomes a predictable thing, and then Elements, they can turn this poke into full throttle. They can just continue to edge SK back away from this map. And you know, it has been a war of attrition, really, by default because of that. Froggen's really controlling the pace of this game, and he's happy that SK Gaming have to dance to his tune.
And every time this ulti is down for CandyPanda, it buys more time for him to sit and poke. He can suddenly play a bit more aggressive. So they have to respect the Ekko damage. Lich Bane now coming in, 3rd item, so you can really do a lot of damage to some of these squishies from Elements. Froggen needing a binding.
Does, but he's got his team around him. Parallel Convergence comes in. He's able to move away from it, nice and slow, able to predict.
Same setup as before.
Living Artilleries. There's a Shen on the bottom. He's ready to teleport or ready to stand united with his team. SK still trying to set up these fights. On the Hunt, still a ways away for SK Gaming, which means there will be no screams followed by chases anytime soon.
SK Gaming looking for a chance to start a fight. Elements looking to try and group and land some poke, but they can't really move towards the towers of SK Gaming, because then when you have these long lanes here without a turret's gaunt, that Sivir ulti is just that much more impactful, and they don't want to be caught out. They don't want to risk giving SK a potential flank. So they don't really want to group and push anywhere. And SK is just constantly looking for a way to start a fight, but they never seem to have enough map control to really force Elements into any bad fights. So that's why we have this dance between the two teams.
Yeah, and even though the teleport takes a little while to complete, when Freddy comes in, he grants a shield on someone with the Stand United, right? He then immediately makes that person a target because it takes so long for that to channel and complete. A lot of the times they've been able to burn through it anyways, and it takes a little while for him to come up. Speaking of him, by the way, Gnar's out on Jwaow, and Freddy could be in some trouble. He throws down his Randuin's Omen, but he's slowly getting beat down, and he dashes into his tower. Jwaow will back away immediately, though SK are trying to push down mid.
Oh yeah, going straight mid.
Oh, Nyph, he's pulled right back in by Tabzz. Will he bowl out? Looks like they're going for it. Chase on, Froggen still throwing out absolutely everything. The Living Artillery not going to connect, but he had a Void Ooze. Nicely sunk, in comes the Gnar. It's going to be a little while before Jwow's bar is back up and available. Shen sitting on Fountain to counter-engage if he might. This time Elements are the aggressors, and Dexter is the one who's knocked into the team and taken down. Meanwhile, instantly focusing on Nyph now. Tabzz out of the fight, Froggen out of the fight. Jwaow blown up by CandyPanda. This is what SK wanted. In comes the coin, down goes Nyph. Svenskeren belly bops him out, and that's going to be a 3 for none to SK Gaming.
Yeah, exactly what SK wanted right here. They'd already used the Sivir ult, didn't manage to get anything. And then it's Elements saying, now we want to fight. Dexter jumping in. No Gnar from what I can see. We have to see in the replay at least, but Dexter is going in. Didn't try and rely on landing a lot of poke. That's going to cost him potentially a Baron as well. SK Gaming suddenly getting everything they want.
Yeah, now they look for Tabzz. A couple of flashes burned right there. Sven is very low, so is Fox, but they're still chasing on with this Baron. Tabzz will take a few parting shots. Froggen and Dexter, meanwhile, trying to cut off the route of escape. Bindings and boomerangs are flying wide. SK Gaming had to be careful. Oh, as we pan away, Froggen is able to snipe down nRated. So some revenge.
We couldn't show that
for
one.
this element. Yeah, it was too graphic.
Quickly swap away to a dead Jwaow, who's now teleporting back in.
Oh,
worth it.
Backing stops. Totally worth it from Jwaow. And there's still pressure on the bottom right here, too. A massive minion wave is taking this on, and no one from SK are reacting to it.
No, Elements will be able to, or should be able to get at least one tower from this. Mid lane is pushing in, top lane is pushing in, bot lane is pushing in. They have to be able to get something somewhere, but that engage still really didn't have to happen if you're Elements here, because you're already winning the side lane. Let's see, top lane now 2v 2v3 at the moment.
Yeah, it can always change, but Freddy's the one who's already in here, and Tabzz is going to get barreled back towards SK Gaming, and Fox will take him down 4-0 on the Ekko. Elements, meanwhile, unperturbed, continue to poke down towers. They take another in the mid, turn their attention towards the bot. They're trading lives for towers here. These are the sacrifices that they're making.
Very quickly, though, getting a lot of gold from it. SK Gaming, though, they're looking to push down the mid lane instead. Elements, after giving over the Baron, gets 2 towers at least. But man, that was strange.
Very weird.
You're winning that one-on-one with Jwaow in the side lane. You have Froggen as well scaling. You don't need to force that fight. You can just sit back on it, because we just saw what happened in the bot lane. Freddy couldn't do anything. That's what we mentioned with this Gnar here. Once he gets the Black Cleaver, Frozen Mallet coming in, you just become so strong in the one-on-one. Use that instead.
That's the thing. They seem to mistime the Gnar bar. It wasn't up and available because he's just been dueling with Freddy. So now, SK, as a result, they've got a big empowered minions on their back. And look at the tower. It's just, they're taking a hot knife to it, and it's just going down like butter. So instantly taken down, 38 minutes on the game. It's 5-4 in turrets. It's really been all about these trades. Back and forth. One team wins a fight. Objectives are taken. Or sometimes objectives are taken by the team that loses the fight. Right. It's really been all over the place this game, Deficio.
Yeah, and then that split pushing war between Freddy and Jwaow, where whenever Freddy, because he's double global, whenever he has no teleport from Jwaow, he's the guy pushing down the lane, and SK Gaming is the one sitting back passive and waiting for Elements to then make a play to get a fight, use that to their advantage, and then whenever Jwaow has the teleport, he's the guy winning the one-on-one. Nice binding here onto Nyph.
Yeah, Nyph is going to be pulled in, however, by the Fate's Call. Where's he coming out? Right into SK's waiting arms, and CandyPanda takes him down. Nyph is going down after the fact. It was Tabzz that actually got taken out first, instantly just setting up the trap, closing the jaws. SK Gaming want to kick this game into high gear, and they'll be heading straight for the mid.
That Baron was so important for it. It makes it very hard for Froggen to wave clear, and he's the only guy who can really do it from Element's side. And SK Gaming suddenly getting a bit of map control, getting to move down, and we see what they can do out in the open. 5 versus 5. They're so strong.
So strong indeed. Now, tower's gone down, looking for Dexter. In comes the taunt. Dexter flashes away, and Fox right back to the inhibitor. Take it down instantly. Now Elements trying to get a bit of revenge. In comes the big Gnar from Jwaow while his teammates arrive in time. Svenskeren chunked out by Froggen. So is Freddy, but CandyPanda is still able to take down Jwaow. SK standing strong. And on the retreat, should be able to lock up a dragon here, or they can turn their attention that way.
Well, they're still fairly low after the fight here. Jwaow thinking he could jump in and buy time. Froggen was out of mana though, and 2 guys from Elements were still dead. SK just gonna be happy taking a red buff, taking a dragon. Nobody's really aiming towards 5 dragons here. With 40 minutes in, it's 2 for 2. That's not gonna be a massive factor. 5% movement speed, however, in a Sivir comp, that's great for SK Gaming to keep trying to dive onto Elements and Froggen here.
And these attempts have been getting more and more successful for SK. They're still, most of the time, finding these very quick fights, but they're the ones definitely winning them now. It was very even for a long time. Right. Now you can see the kill spread 5-12 in favor of SK. The gold lead has started to spiral. It hasn't meant as much this game because it has been so even for so long, but now they've got themselves in a confident situation, and Elements are on the back foot.
Yeah, really that play around the mid lane is the big turning point for SK. It started looking really bad because they were starting to lose in the fights in the side lanes. Never really managed to find an engage with the Sivir ulti, but then Elements just said, you know what, we're gonna do it for you. And they were the ones starting that fight. Really questionable play. And SK Gaming now, big goal lead for themselves. This Ekko here becoming really dangerous in these team fights.
Hasn't gone down yet too. Fox demonstrating a very clear survival instinct for himself. And SK Gaming, they have taken a few questionable fights themselves, but as the game has gone on, it has looked better and better. They're looking to be on their way to 3 straight wins after a pretty big losing streak to start out the split. That is definitely a breath of fresh air for this team.
Full credit to SK Gaming, how they managed to come back from this poor start. They kept talking about how they changed the mentality. It's now about avoiding relegation, just trying to make playoffs. Don't think it's a top team. So full credit to them and how they managed to bounce back. Find some picks that worked for them. It's a big place from the mid lane. CandyPanda from time to time managed to step up and be a bit of a carry as well, but often it's about Sven and Freddy, how well they can perform.
Yeah, we call him Svenny at the office. And they have been doing some serious work for this team. Let's see what they can do to Dexter right here as they knock him and barrel him around. CandyPanda gets the last boomerang, and immediately they turn their attention back to mid. They've got minions to cover themselves. Freddy's not even involved in this. He's down bottom, just pushing the wave. Elements can't react on all fronts, and they're getting shoved in.
Getting pushed in, and SK Gaming instantly saying, we're not going to allow you to wave clear, we're not going to allow you to poke, we're just going to pop that Sivir ulti and engage onto you. Gets the kill. They can still go for more, and they're going straight for it.
Yeah, Fox has got his eyes set on Froggen, but he's getting pushed back, throws down his Zhonya's, and he will stay alive, but this inhibitor can't say the same for that. Elements lose another. And SK Gaming will be able to make their escape, but nRated on the back heel. Will he get out? Yes, he will.
Suddenly you're pushed so far down in your own base that you never get to set up that split push again. So all the time Jwaow used on getting Frozen Mallet and Black Cleaver is almost wasted now because he won't be able to use it properly against Freddy. SK Gaming with 2 inhibitors open, Baron is alive, so that's going to be the next big objective. Once again, we are in a 5-on-5 team fight. Jwaow taking some damage.
Yep, he had the Gnar Ryzen available, so the face check wasn't as dangerous as it might be. Elements trying to establish some control over this newly respawned Baron. But that Gnar won't last forever. SK Gaming aren't going anywhere. They know they can't afford to back at the moment.
Fairly low members though. If they get a chance to push out the waves and then send one guy back at a time, and one thing you can do on Ekko is you can recall and then pop back to your ulti. Not saying you should do it, especially not a late game where you kind of want that ulti for the team fight. But SK managed to find an opening. Push down the waves. Got to go back with the low members. Now returning to the Baron. It's not the situation Elements wants to be in. But they have to now take a team fight where they need to really outplay SK. So much is about the damage coming in from Tabzz and Froggen, but also the Mega Gnar from Jwaow.
But you hit it on the head with that damage. The problem, we had this poke composition, this partial poke composition. It's all on Froggen to really be able to deal it. Tabzz is, yes, doing a lot of damage, but they have to rely on him having the healthy mana bar. They have to rely on Jwaow being able to utilize his Gnar bar. So many bars in this game, Deficio, and it's very situational.
SK can just dance around the Baron now because they have Freddy pushing, no TP from Jwaow, so we're back to the same we've seen like 10, 15 minutes ago. SK Gaming can now sit back a little bit, keep dodging around the poke, and then wait for Freddy to push all the way down to the tower, and Elements then has to try and go straight for the fight, and they have to time that properly. Thing is, their main engage is going to be like throwing in Nyph from the Kalista.
And they've actually used that very defensively a lot when he's been the one who checks in and gets caught. So now there's still no reaction to this Shen. He's building the wave down bottom. They've sent Jwaow kind of to the top lane to try and push off. This should prompt SK. Will they go ahead and start this Baron? They do. There are Kog'Maw living artillery shells flying from the back, but now they can turn on to Nyph. He's gonna get pulled in. There's the Fate's Call used defensively. Fox is now gonna get some shielding in the form of Freddy. That's gonna be a big shutdown though for Tabzz, and Elements manage to find 3 members. Freddy burning low, and will they finish him off here? No, they turn their own attention to the Baron. Freddy's gonna teleport. Froggen's gonna stop him. Down he goes, 4 for 0. Elements, 4 members on this Baron, 1 backing away as CandyPanda makes a mad dash from it.
I would have loved to see SK Gaming just wait. You had that push going in the bottom lane. Nobody from Elements will go down and stop it. Otherwise it would have been a 4v5 near the Baron. And yet SK, as soon as they saw Freddy at the tower, they went straight for the Baron. That allowed Elements then to move in. And now you're caught in there inside this Baron pit, so you're forced to take the fight. SK turns, Jwaow was nearby, and suddenly it's a big 5-on-5. Where Froggen was completely untouched in the back line. Jwaow got a big Mega Gnar.
That's the dream fight for Elements.
And SK Gaming could honestly have just sat back and waited for Freddy to do more work down the front. They were all healthy. They're barely taking any damage from Froggen.
They turned on and they were turned away. Big win for Elements there. They grab the Baron. They'll now grab a Dragon. They have a mid inhibitor respawning soon. And all they have to do is cover that hole they've got in the top side. 47 minutes, getting closer to that mark. And right now, Elements are looking like they might be the ones who outscale this game, Deficio.
If they can manage to get another fight like that one, where Jwaow can finally be in the mix with his Mega Gnar, where Froggen can stay untouched, Elements will definitely be able to outscale SK Gaming in these fights. And suddenly, talk about how Jwaow might never get to use his Frozen Mallet Black Cleaver against Freddy. He might have an opening now. His own teleport is ready, and suddenly it's Elements. With that Baron, he might be able to be a bit of a split pusher again, suddenly. Also got that fantastic poke. But SK Gaming trying to set up a little trap.
It has worked well for them
And
before.
one ward here has spotted something for Elements.
This is Elements definitely not falling for it, courtesy of that vision. There hasn't been as much of it that side of the map for Elements as they have been shoved in, but that ward does certainly help out. Now, Elements feeling confident enough to push out with their members, 4 of them at least, in this middle while they use Jwaow to keep clearing away the top. They are slowly but surely creeping their way back into this game.
47 minutes in. All the carries are getting close to 6 items completed for themselves. Elements trying to finally get a push going. Sven is sitting in behind. Jwaow joining him, so it's going to be a big 5-on-5. Can we see some poke first, or will SK Gaming just pull the trigger instantly? I really want to see Elements just use Jwaow still. The 2 side lanes are pushing for them though, so they've slowly built them up, but there's going to be a long time before these waves hit any towers close to SK Gaming, so they don't have to worry about them now. This gives SK the chance to just start that 5-on-5 team fight.
Sven is coming in for the flank. The coins pop. He's actually worried. Wait a minute, guys. I thought you said go. And Element said no. They take him down
That ward spotted Sven coming in from the side, and instantly Elements just backs away. Tabzz even gets his LCS kill number 400.
Well, that's one to remember, Deficio. And now they've got minions at their back looking to try and cruise off into the sunset with this game. They're still down in gold, but they are up in spirit. Inhibitor turret being destroyed, taken down. The damage is just so much. And with the death timers the way they are, 5v4 is not what SK is looking to take right now. Elements starting to shove in.
Go down to the bottom lane, catch that wave being built up before here from Elements.
Might just wait until it pushes itself in. Jwow's going around the danger zone. He's just tanking tower shot. Yeah, I mean, he's almost Mega Gnar. Here we go. Elements don't care about the wave. They take the tower down. They keep on pushing forward. They'll have it at their back. Baron is no longer an option, or no longer on these members, but they are still feeling very, very confident to continue to push in. Mega Gnar not out just yet. They've got a slim amount of time to keep on going.
Yeah, still 10 seconds before Sven is alive. Elements pushing in. Let's see what happens.
Dexter's taking the laser. It might be a little bit dangerous for him, and they will back out. Half the tower has been taken down, but they are not able to finish the job. Big wave pushing up top as well, but Svenskeren is there to deal.
Elements knows they have these waves pushing in. Also, Super Minions coming around the mid lane soon. They want to keep the pressure. Dexter can always just ulti back like he's doing right now, so no reason for Elements to back away just yet. Because look up there, there's like 4 or 5 waves
eventually send
together
that.
for them. Nobody touches that wave. It's going to do a lot of damage to the tower.
Well, you'll see that in our small screen in the corner there. Elements just keeping the attention on this bot side. All of SK versus all of Elements. As long as no one gets caught, they can stay that way for a while. Now, CandyPanda's gone up. This is time for Elements to strike. Immediately, can they finish it off? They look for Freddy. He's gonna go in, gets the taunt. Svenskeren gets knocked up. Nyph gets knocked back. Everyone's getting knocked all over the place, but the tower's not going down. Elements, they're not finishing it off. And now SK are chasing them back, but do they have enough? As in comes the rest of SK Gaming. The Sivir got around to the side, and now with the pickoff on Dexter and Nyph, Elements have to back away. The plan is foiled, Deficio.
Very strange from Elements here. Some of the members were trying to hit SK Gaming, some of them were trying to hit the tower. In the end now, Sivir ulti has been popped. Sven is looking for Tabzz.
Tabzz is maybe going to stay alive. No, I don't think so. That's Fox who takes him down, but Sven might just live through this one. Takes a drink, he's earned it. Now Froggen is gonna get flash taunted. Shut down by CandyPanda.
Look at the base though here. Jwaow is teleporting in, he's trying to finish.
Oh, is he really going to? Do they have time? They can back away. The Shen's leaving. No. Jwaow can't finish this game.
He's just trying to force someone back from SK Gaming. The rest of the team here. 60 seconds on Froggen, 50 seconds for Tabzz here. They can at least push in for inhibitor. Is there anything else? I mean,
they've got no waves.
Got no waves.
They can take it.
Nobody really wants to tank the tower either.
Well, they sent their tank back.
It was back now. Just get 2 inhibitors. We're looking out towards the next Baron instead. 2 of them already died so far.
Another dragon soon to come up. Remember, we haven't really been keeping as close of an eye on those because it's been fairly even, but whoever team gets this next one will be one shy of that aspect, and that is another way that they can possibly look to close this game out. It really has been just so back and forth, just like the fights, the ping pong effects. That's pretty much how you sum up this game metaphorically.
Concentrating for both teams. Constant focus on this Baron as well. Elements trying to defend it, SK trying to take it, over and over and over.
And so the cycle continues.
And we're back around that Baron. Everyone is alive. Summoner spells, no flash for Tabzz, no flash for CandyPanda, 280 carries. It could be very important. No flash for Jwaow either though, so it can be a bit tricky for him to land that Mega Gnar. Again, we have to remember elements. The main engage is going to be like Nyph flying in the face of SK Gaming, and then the follow-up is more the Rek'Sai and the Gnar. None of them are really hard engage champions.
And right, and Nyph has had to be the guy he's run in there, and then when they weren't really ready for it, they've had to pull him back in. If they can use an offensive Fates call, that might change the game.
Could for sure, and they might have to, because once again now we have that global advantage for Freddy. So he's back down in the bottom lane. Last time, SK Gaming could have waited for Freddy to force someone down. They didn't. They started the Baron. Elements walked in. They got a big 5-on-5 team fight. They won the fight. Took the Baron itself. Elements now feel more confident as well. Nyph in the front line. They don't want to allow Freddy to get all the way down to this tier or to the inhibitor turret, because they know nobody can really go down and defend from it. Maybe Dexter could hold the wave and then turn it back up towards the Baron.
Elements have to play this out carefully though. They don't have the side wave control. They're falling back into those bad habits as they try to defend this Baron. There's a huge wave pushing on opposed top. There's a Shen pushing bottom. They're starting this Baron. I feel like this is desperation.
Yeah, they have to. They have to force SK to take a fight and use that Shen ulti. Otherwise, the base is just going to die for nothing.
It's already going down though. Inhibitor turret. Freddy's finished it off. Will he come in? The Baron is going so low. Will they be able to secure it? In comes Sven. Can he pull it off? And it goes down in favor of Elements. The spears were ripped out. The fight has started. SK are starting to melt, but do they have enough in the tank?
Look at the minion.
Super minions still firing down the Nexus turrets. You call them minions, but that's a triple kill over to Tabzz.
Everyone's just down from SK for Elements here, so that buys time. And look here, everyone from SK is dead. Elements might be able to go up and finish the game. Then again, they don't have any minions themselves. They're stuck down here.
They're gonna have to tank the tower. They have nothing in their base except the Nexus right now. They're sending Froggen and Dexter to get these death timers are so long. There's one Nexus turret. They can tank it with Dexter here.
They will get it. Dexter can tank it. Froggen take it down. Jwaow joining in as well. What a game, though.
What a game indeed. Just shy of 55 minutes. Dexter goes down.
Jwaw's coming.
Finish the turret.
Jwaw's coming.
Oh, they're going to have to wait on it.
Sending the next guy.
All right, so it might actually hit that 55-minute mark. Down it goes. The death timers are just too long. And in an outright back-and-forth slugfest,
now.
Elements have taken down SK Gaming.
And wow.
And wow.
This game was so back and forth so many times. It's almost impossible to really look back at the entire game and pinpoint everything.
Take a look at that match history. It'll literally be just a wave.
So much can go back to, you know, the start of the game. It was fairly slow. They were trading back and forth here. We talked about how it could favor Elements with the scaling they had. We got to see a little bit of what the Gnar can do into Shen. Never turned into be the most impactful thing. It was about the late game team fights. It was about, can SK get to the backline of Elements? Too many times they failed to do so. Too many times they were just a little bit too fast on the trigger. Didn't use that Shen to really get down to us before in the very end. And that's things they can look back at and be like, ooh, we were just 10 seconds too early right here.
They started the game with a pretty good set of attempts and picks. It wasn't really getting too much done in the top, but their plays in the bottom weren't too bad. But then Elements were able to react to it. And yeah, I think that's the way to put it. SK really jumped the gun on a lot. They got really aggressive without fully calculating it. And Elements pushed them back time and time again. It looked grim for this team a number of times this game. But at the end of the day, that fight, while the minions are still pushing on the Nexus, to have that composure, that is something that you don't see every day.
Yeah, in the end, you gotta make some fast decisions. It almost seemed like they sent back too many members to defend it, but then Jwaow managed to obviously have enough time to clear out the minions, join
either we get the ace
out there,
or we lose.
Yes,
but they got it.
So like that was the right play from Elements, saying, okay, we cannot stop the Shen, so we have to just force that Baron right now. We need to force a team fight. And then, if we win it, we can finish the game. but also had to happen in time because these super minions were still pushing in on their own Nexus. So like it was very, very close. SK went in, lost the fight, and then the game was over. But so many times in this game here, it seemed like both teams were saying, okay, we don't really feel like we can push our advantage anyway, so we just keep going to Baron. We keep going to Baron over and over and over, and it became very simple. And in the end also ended up deciding the game, the last Baron.
Absolutely. So with that, we wrap up today. We're going to go ahead and send it side stage where